To get started on this project, you should have downloaded the Lesson 7 folder from the classroom page. And let's go ahead and double click on the L7 Start Illustrator file. This is what it will look like once you open it up. We've got a series of little pen tool practice lessons that we're going to work through that shows you some different common techniques that you can do with just this one simple tool. But before we get started, let's go up to File and do a Save As. And let's rename this the Pen Drawing Practice. Pen underscore drawing. Let's not do practice. Let's just put our name at the end of it. Keep it an Illustrator file and hit Save and say OK to the options. To get started, let's go over to the Properties panel and let's choose the first artboard. This will be the little crown that we're going to be creating up here at the top. Now, this will be a good reintroduction to the pen tool if you've never used it, but to find the pen tool, it's located usually towards the top of your toolbox. It looks like an old-timey writing pen. Whenever you draw with this tool, it's best to be able to see what you're drawing while you draw. And the pen tool gives you the ability to add anchor points right where you want them to be. So before we start using it, let's set our fill color to be none. Let's set our stroke to keep it at a solid black. And let's go ahead and make this a little bit thicker at 4 points. To start any kind of vector drawing, you always start with one click. Now you can let go of your mouse and you can see how it follows your cursor until you click where you want it to go next. So going through, we're simply going to follow along with each of the different points. And because there's no fill in color, nothing is filled in. Now to stop or to deselect an area, there's a couple of options we could do. But one of the simplest things you can do is to swap over to another tool like your selection tool. You can see how it's now selected, and then you can click away to deselect it. With it still selected, clicking on it one more time, we can also fill it in. Let's do it filled in with just a simple little yellow that's here. So there's our yellow that's filled in. Notice that the fill will still complete it even if you haven't drawn from the ending point to the beginning point. The other thing we can do is take your direct selection tool and let's deselect it by clicking away, then hover over this path and hit the delete key to delete it away. Notice that it will break apart our illustration and still try to fill it in on the part that is drawn in. Now with our pen tool, one more time, let's select it. Go back over to the 5 and 6. If you ever need to reconnect a path, you can simply click on the anchor point and then reconnect it to the existing anchor point, and then we've redrawn it from there. Another way to deselect is to do Shift-Command-A, and that will deselect the area that you're working on. Scrolling down to the next one, let's do the same thing for this one. So it'll be very simple. Simply click on the path. You can see that as I'm drawing, it's filling it in because I have the fill already selected. At any time, if you want to turn off your fill color over here, you can click the fill color swatch to the front, and you can also hit the none, and that will deselect it there. That looks good with that. Then once it's finished, Shift-Command-A to deselect, or you can use your selection tool to fill it in and turn it to be whatever color you need it to be. Now let's grab our pen tool and go over to our properties. We can't see our artboards over here in the properties with the pen tool selected. Don't worry, you can still go down to the very bottom of your navigation window and go over to number 2. In this case, we're going to be drawing off a little house. Now when we do this, there's a couple of other things we can do with our pen tool to give us some nice straight parallel lines. We'll start off with one click on one. If you hold down the Shift key, notice that it will constrain your angle at 90 or 45 degree angles, going all the way around. So let's hold down the Shift key and click on 2. And there it is to 3, all the way up to 4. Again, if it's off by a little bit, that's okay. I can also see that I should have set up my fill color to be none before I started. Again, Shift and click to get everything nice and parallel and aligned. Finally, as you draw, notice that some of your smart guides are going to start showing up to help you align things. In this case, it's lined up with the bottom edge, and that will let me finish it off down here at the bottom. Let's do the same with this other house. In this case, it doesn't have a 45 degree, but that we can still start at 1 and hold down the Shift key until we reach an area that doesn't need it. Let go of the Shift key. That should let you draw that nice straight edge. Again, use your guides. Let me zoom back in for that to make sure everything is lined up. Sorry about that. And stays nice and parallel. Now we can zoom back out. So far, we've been drawing just by creating some straight lines. Now let's practice creating some curved lines. Let's grab our black arrow selection tool and go over to our properties panel. We'll go over to artboard number 3. And to explore making a curved line, let's grab our regular pen tool, not the curvature tool, but the pen tool. You always start by clicking once to start your line. To make a curve, you click and drag, and this will give you your Bezier handles. Notice that there's a handle on the left and the right side. Each one controls the curve of the line based on that side. So as long as you're clicking once, you'll get straight lines, but if you click and drag, you get your curved lines with these Bezier handles. Again, let's do Command and click away to deselect it. Let's now shift over to this work area. Now, if you need to, you can start by dragging a Bezier curve at the starting point. We're going to click in the middle here and drag upward to the red dot, so that gives us this curve. I can then go all the way over to curve number 2. You can see I've got my little smart guide lining it up. Let's drag downward, and I'm holding the Shift key, again, to constrain my proportions to be perfectly up and down until it gives me that nice rounded curve. Again, Shift Command A will deselect it. Now this will work for any kind of curve you want to make. As long as you're holding Shift and clicking and dragging, you can do it to the left and right or up and down. Let's practice that down here. Again, we'll click once and hold the Shift key as you drag upward. Because we want to curve it this way, we're dragging the direction of the curve upward this way. Then go over to 2 and drag downward to drag and curve it the other way. Once again, if yours is off by a little bit, that's okay. We're simply practicing. Hold down Command and deselect it. Let's start on this side. Again, click and drag to curve it upward, then move over, and then drag downward to complete the rest of the curve until it looks natural. Finally, hold down Command and deselect. If we want to do it this way, click and drag the direction of the curve, and then move over and drag the opposite direction to curve it out that way. And then hold down Command to deselect. The final thing I'll note, and the book doesn't really point this out, if you do want to readjust these curves, you can always use your white arrow direct selection tool, click on a point, and then you can click on the Bezier handles to adjust them. Again, we can click on a point, and then click on the Bezier handle and readjust it as necessary. Click on this point, then click on the appropriate Bezier handle to dial in that curve right where it needs to be. That looks good. Let's get crazy and be a little bit more complex. This time, let's go over to artboard number 4 and see if we can do a continuous curve for this little worm guy. Again, grab your pen tool. Let's zoom in to the starting point, and we'll click and drag up to that point, then move to 2 and click and drag down, and then 3 and drag up, and you know what to do for the rest of this. The point is we're leading it on so we know we need to curve, and so we're creating that next curve along the path until finally it reaches the final path, and then Command and deselect it. Let's try to practice it from down here as well too. Click and drag because we know we're starting with a curve, and then click and drag to continue that curve. Remember, if yours is off by a little bit, You can always either hold down the Command key to get your direct selection tool to redial it in, or later on you can go back with the direct selection tool to fix it on the fly. Shift Command A will deselect that one. Notice that curved angles work whether your subject is going at an angle itself or whether it's going straight across. You can make these curves any direction. Let's deselect and go to Project Artboard number 5. In this case, what do we do if we want to create these little scalloped effects where it starts curved, but it stops abruptly? We'll zoom into this work area, and we'll start off like normal. Click and drag the direction of the curve you want it to go. And in this case, we'll complete out the curve by dragging upward until it matches the line here. Don't pay necessarily any attention to this dot. Now, we don't want to curve upward, we want it to curve back downward. This time, hold down the Option key if you're on a Mac or the Alt key if you're on a Windows. Click on this topmost handle and drag it down to match the red dot down below. Notice now that the curve will follow the lower portion. So again, click and drag up, Option or Alt, drag that handle down. Click and drag up, Option or Alt, and then click and drag it down. And that will reverse the direction of the line that you're going. Click and drag up, Option, click and drag down. Click and drag up. And that will end off this one. Command or Shift Command A to deselect. Let's practice the same thing down here. Again, start the direction of the curve you want it to go. So we're going to click and drag upward this way, and then click and drag down to finish the curve. Hold down Option or Alt and bring it back around. Click and drag down, Option and Alt, bring it back around. Click and drag down, Option Alt, bring it back around. Click and drag down, Option or Alt, and bring it back down. And there we have our little scalloped edges looking good. Shift Command A to deselect. Now let's go to Project Artboard number 6. In this case, we're going to be starting off by making a curve and then abruptly dropping that edge straight down and then straight across. In order to do this, let's start off with our curve. We'll click and drag to start our curved line, and then click and drag outward this way. Whoops. And if you go too far, that's okay. Simply hold down your mouse and bring it back around. Now we're good. But I'm looking at that curved edge until it matches the edge of my line here. Notice now I need to go straight down. However, if I do that, it's going to go all the way out. To get rid of this Bezier curve, you can simply click one more time on this point to delete it away, and this will give us our straight edge. Remember to hold down the Shift key and then click to bring it back in. Let's do it again on this side. This time I'm going to start with 1, and I'm going to go straight up and just click once here. To get a Bezier curve only on this side, I'm going to click on my anchor point and drag out to create that anchor point or that curve to this side. Now I can click on 3 and drag downward. We need to get rid of this Bezier curve, so let's click on 3 again and then go straight across to bring it back in. Shift Command A to deselect. Now let's put it into practice. Remember to think ahead as you click and drag along, and you can follow along with the little instructions that are on here and in your book. Start off with point 1 by clicking on it, and we need a straight edge to point 2. We now need to make a curve that goes along here to 3. I don't have a Bezier handle, so let's click on the anchor point and drag one out. Then I can click on point 3 and drag it downward to here. That looks good. We need this Bezier handle to curve the other way. So let's click one more time on this anchor point to get rid of it. And let's go to point 4 and drag outward this way. Finally, let's click on 5 and drag down. Again, if yours is off by a bit, that's okay. I need this next line to go straight across. So click on the anchor point. So I can click on 6, and this will take us home all the way back to 1. Finally, remember you can use your direct selection tool to click on any of these anchor points and then drag them into place so that they look more appropriate, but I won't count off if it's off by a little bit. Finally, let's go to project board number 7 and deal with this more complex shape. As always, we'll use our pen tool to make sure your fill color is set to none and your stroke is set to black with a 4-point. Let's start off with anchor point A. We'll click once there. We know B is a straight line, so that's easy enough to click again. We know we need to curve it this way, so let's click on the anchor point and drag out to make a Bezier handle, and we can easily curve it around to C right here. This will be a relatively straight line to D, but we need to curve it out this way, so once again, click and drag your anchor point until you get to E, and we can complete the curve by clicking out here, and then back around to F. F to G will be a straight line, as well as from G to H. But from here, we need to be able to click out and start creating a curve. I'm going to click on my anchor point and drag outward, and then from I, we're going to click and drag down to create a simple little curve here, and then we'll complete the curve here and drag down and out. However, we need to go the opposite direction. Let's hold down the Option key, click on it, and drag it around here. Now we can click on K and drag out. Hold down the Option key and swing it back around. Let's move down. Click and drag for L until it matches. Hold down the Option or the Alt key and swing it back around. And let's finish it out down here with the M. We don't need to have a curve here, so I'm just going to click once again on the M and go straight back to the A. Now let's go in and kind of clean this up just a little bit. First off, I'm going to grab my direct selection tool, and you already know that if you click on any point, you can move it around and readjust it. Additionally, you can hover over a path or a line and be able to adjust any points along that line as well. If a point has a curvature to it, say up here, you can click on that path, and that will allow you to adjust the curve of it on the fly because there's already a Bezier handle associated with it. You may need to also click on the curvature of those handles and further refine the edge until it transitions nice and smoothly to it. Let's do the same for up here. So this path, we need to smooth it out just a bit. So I'm going to drag this handle up and over until it comes nice and aligned with that. Sometimes it's helpful to be able to see the line that we're working on. Since this line is kind of a dark blue on a black, it would be helpful to be able to change that dark blue. In order to do this, go up to your Layers panel, and you can double click on this practice layer. Notice that I clicked not on the name, but on the empty space beside it, and this will bring up our layer options. By default, you can change the color of it from light blue to let's go for more of a light red and say OK. Now all the lines on, or the vector lines at least, on this layer are a nice bright red and they're noticeable. Let's scooch down to this first little finger right here. Notice on this finger that it has an extra point to it that we did for the middle of this curve. Now that's not a bad thing, but if you ever needed to clean this up and get rid of that anchor point, you can use your pen tool to hover over a point and notice that the minus sign appears next to your cursor. When you click on it, it erases that point and reconnects it. You can then hold down the Command key and click on the path and drag it back out to redraw that shape without the path already there. Additionally, with your pen tool still selected, if you needed to add a point, let's say this little one needs to bulge out a bit more, You can click on a path. Notice the little plus sign appears. That will add an anchor point. Then hold down your Command key and you can drag it out and reposition it and redraw it here too. Let's zoom back out. Finally, let's go over to the blue rectangle off to the side. Let's pull up our Properties panel. If you ever have a line that's already drawn and it doesn't have any Bezier curves to it, so notice that this one is just made up of straight lines, you can use your Direct Selection tool, click on any anchor points that are created, and inside of your Properties panel, you can convert those corners to be either anchor points that have sharp corners or smooth corners. Clicking on smooth corners adds a little Bezier handle to it. Let's do the same for that at the bottom. So select the bottom left corner, and then let's smooth it out. Notice now it's nice and smooth and rounded. You can then click on this inside edge. You have to deselect it first, hover over the line, there we go, and you can drag it inward to be able to reposition it. If you hold down the Shift key, it'll constrain the proportions and bring it in directly smooth and straight this way. All right, with this finished, let's select the outline for our thumb. That's been black the whole time. And let's change the color of it to the bright blue or the middle blue that's over here. Finally, let's save up your Illustrator file by going up to File and Save and upload to the class page.